Disclaimer: this video contains discussions of violence, murder, and crimes against women that some viewers may find deeply disturbing. Please use discretion while watching, especially if you're sensitive to these topics. The purpose of this video is to share the facts of the case, honor the memory of the victims, and examine the systemic failures that allowed these crimes to continue. None of the details is meant to sensationalize or glorify the killer. On the surface, raising pigs seems simple. Anyone who's spent time around a pig's farm knows the same truth. Pigs eat everything. Farmers will tell you it's practical: scrapes, spoiled vegetables, even leftovers from yesterday's dinner. All of it can be tossed to the pigs, and the pigs will make it vanish. But that very fact has always carried a darker whisper. For centuries, people have joked that if you wanted to hide something, even something terrible, pigs could make it disappear. That whisper became a chilling reality on a quiet farm in British Columbia, because behind the barns, behind the mud, and the stench of hogs, a man was hiding horrors that would make the nation recoil. He slaughtered the most vulnerable and hid the evidence in that one place no one thought to look. My name is Eva, and I tell stories where truth and nightmare blur together. And today we dive into one of Canada's darkest true crime stories, the Robert Pickton case. In this video, we'll walk through how a pig farmer became one of Canada's most notorious serial killers, how the system failed too many times, and what happened when it all came undone. You'll find out how many victims there really might have been, and how the farm hid his secrets, why the police response was so flawed, shocking, and how a final moment in prison brought closure for some. Before we dive into this chilling case, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It will help me immensely, and click the bell icon so you would never miss a true horror story that reads like a nightmare. So grab your blankets, dim the lights, and let's step into a story that feels too real for comfort. I have changed the set. Well, it's just my living room, to be honest, but I'm decorating for Halloween, and I'm so excited for this time of year because it's my favorite time of the year. I have these little co-hosts. He always makes the mess and cleans it. She's the mischievous little devil. These are my Harry Potter haunted candles. If you have seen my last video, you would know they do turn on by themselves. I just like to keep this spooky fantasy. Without further ado, let's get started. Robert William Pickton entered the world on October 24th, 1949, making him a Scorpio. He was born in Port Coquitlam, a suburb just outside of Vancouver, and on paper, it sounds like a normal small-town upbringing, but in reality, it was anything but normal. The Pickton family ran a pig farm, and life on the farm was not sunshine and red barns like you see on a Pinterest board. It was filth. The children worked long hours, often knee-deep in mud and animal waste. Their clothes were always dirty, their hygiene poor, and at school, other kids avoided them because of the smell. Robert, or Willie as people called him, struggled in class. He fell behind early, and by grade 2, he was placed in special education. Reading and writing were always difficult for him, and he never managed to finish high school. But what truly left a mark on him wasn't the teasing or the struggles with learning. It was something that happened on the farm. When Willie was young, his mother gave him a calf to raise. He fed it, cared for it, and bonded with it.
You're dying for it!
For a boy like him, it was one of the few sources of affection. And then one day, his mother told him that the calf was gone, slaughtered, its body used for meat. That lesson, that nothing you love is safe, that life is disposable, seemed to sink into him like poison. It damaged him. By the time Robert was grown, his parent had passed away, and the farm was left to him and his brother David. They inherited not just the land, but also the habits, the filth, the isolation, and the coldness. And over the years, the farm stopped being a place for pigs. It became a place where people went in and didn't come back out. The Pickton brothers weren't ordinary farmers. They sold off pieces of their land as development spread into the area, and suddenly they had money. With money came freedom, and for Robert, freedom meant indulgence. In an old slaughterhouse on the property, they started hosting parties. They gave the place a name that was almost cartoonish: Piggy's Palace Good Time Society. Not very creative in my opinion, but okay?
You're not even creative.
They even filed the paperwork to call it a non-profit. On paper, it was supposed to be a community center. In reality, it was a lawless party zone. People said that events were wild, hundreds of guests at a time, music blaring, alcohol pouring. Treated openly, sex workers invited into droves, bikers rolled up in leather jackets, and the whole scene was chaos, night after night. And to outsiders, it just looked like one more crazy farm party. But for Robert, Piggy's Palace was more than that. It was a hunting ground. At the same time, in Vancouver's downtown Eastside, women were vanishing, one after another. Dozens. Most were sex workers, indigenous, many struggling with addiction. Families reported them missing, begging for help. But police often brushed them off. She probably left town. She'll turn up, but they never did. Behind the music and the parties, Robert was taking them. You know what grinds my gears? A lot of things, but in this case, Robert could have been stopped. The opportunity was right there. In March of 1997, he picked up a sex worker named Wendy Lynn Esteter. I'm gonna write her name there. He brought her back to the farm inside his trailer, and he tried to handcuff her, but she fought back. He stabbed her and she bled. But Wendy was a fighter, so she grabbed his weapon and turned it on him. She stabbed him back, and the two of them ended up in the hospital. She was treated for multiple stab wounds, and he was treated for his own injuries. And when the police asked her what happened, she told them the truth. He tried to kill her. Robert Pickton was arrested. He was charged with attempted murder, unlawful confinement, and assault. It should have been the end of the story, right? No. Prosecutors looked at Wendy, a sex worker struggling with, and decided she wasn't a credible witness. It happened to her. In January 1998, the charges were stayed, basically dropped. Robert walked free, and from that day forward, he hunted without fear. Between the late 1970s and the early 2000s, more than 60 women disappeared from downtown Eastside. 60! Entire lives erased. Daughters, sisters, mothers, friends. Families put up posters. They went to the police and they begged, but the response was slow, sometimes dismissive. Officers chalked it up to addiction, to transient lifestyles. Some victims' families later said it felt like their daughters didn't matter because they're treating them like they're not human, like the city had decided these women weren't worth saving. Meanwhile, the whispers grew louder. Some women who had gone to the Picton's farm and managed to escape told others, "Don't go there. If I disappear, that's where to look." But warnings weren't enough. Women kept going missing, and Robert kept covering his tracks in the mud and blood of his farm. The break came in February of 2002, and it wasn't even about the murders. Police had a warrant to search the farm for illegal firearms. They went in expecting weapons, but what they found was something else entirely. Inside the property, they stumbled upon items that didn't belong there. Personal belongings, women's purses, ID cards, clothing, and even blood. That one search spiraled into the largest crime scene investigation in Canadian history. For months, forensic teams combed the farm. Excavators tore through soil, conveyor belts sifted dirt for bone fragments, and freezers were searched. Also, pig pens were emptied. The cost of the investigation soared to tens of millions of dollars. But what they found was worse than anyone could have imagined. DNA from 33 women. Partial remains scattered across the property, some in freezers, some mixed with pig entrails, and some were buried in mud. And the rumors spread quickly that Robert had fed the bodies to pigs, or even mixed human remains into pork that was sold for human consumption. The health department issued warnings, and the community recoiled in horror. The farm was no longer just a farm, it was a graveyard. This is Theodore. After his arrest, Robert was placed in a cell with another man, an undercover officer posing as an inmate. And in that cell, Robert talked. He said everything. He bragged about killing 49 women and said that he almost reached 50, but got sloppy. He said he wanted to make it a round number, but he wasn't remorseful. He was proud and he was bragging, and that confession sealed his fate. In January 2006, Robert Pickton went to trial. He was originally charged with 27 counts of murder, but the judge decided to try 6 first. The courtroom was packed. Families of missing women filled the benches, and and journalists crowded in wanting to know the story, what happened. The air was heavy with anger, grief, and the desperate need for answers. Understandably so. The evidence was gruesome. DNA of dozens of women, belongings found in his trailer, and testimonies of people who had heard him brag about what he did. But when the jury came back, they did not convict him of first-degree murder. Instead, he was found guilty of second-degree murder on 6 counts. The sentence, life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. It was the maximum allowed. The other 20 charges dropped. The Crown said convicting him again wouldn't change the sentence, but for the families, it was another betrayal. 20 families never got their day in court, and justice was not served. The 6 women he was convicted of killing were Serena Abotsway, Mona Wilson, Andrea Joesbury, Brenda Wolfe, Georgina Papin, and Marnie Frey. But the true list is much longer. DNA from 33 women was found, and if his own words are to be believed, the number was closer to 49. Each woman had a story, a life, people who loved them, and each was erased by a man hiding in plain sight, a sick and twisted man. The Pickton case isn't just about one monster, it's about failure. Police ignored warnings, families were dismissed, and evidence was mishandled. The lives of women were treated as disposable. A public inquiry called the Missing Women Commission of Inquiry released a final report in 2012 titled Forsaken. And the title said it all. These women were forsaken by the system, left behind, forgotten until it was too late. And for years, Pickton sat in prison. Families continued to grieve, and activists continued to push for justice for the women who were never officially acknowledged in court. Baffling. Then in May 2024, news broke Robert Pickton had been attacked in prison. Another inmate drove the jagged end of a broken broom handle into his head. He was rushed to the hospital and lingered on life support for days. But then, on May 31st, 2024, Robert Pickton was declared dead. Some families felt relief, others felt cheated. They wanted him alive, forced to face their questions, forced to feel their anger. But his story ended the same way it had been lived. In violence. So here's the question that stayed with me. How could this happen? How could a man kill dozens of women in a modern city without being stopped? How could warnings be ignored? Cases dismissed, evidence overlooked? It's crazy. The challenge this case leaves us with is uncomfortable because it shows us that the value of a life was measured differently. If these women had been wealthy or high profile or respected in the eye of society, would the response be the same? The truth is, Robert Pickton thrived because the system didn't care enough. And that is as horrifying as the murders themselves. I think most families did not find closure when he died or even arrested. The pinnacle of this story isn't his death or even his arrest. It was the moment the police dug into the farm and realized the scale of what they had missed. The image of detectives holding bags of women's belongings, the image of conveyor belts sifting soil for bones, and the silence of families in court as the names of the missing were read out. That was the moment when denial ended and when horror became undeniable fact. Robert Pickton will forever be remembered as one of Canada's worst serial killers, convicted of 6 murders, suspect of dozens more. He turned his farm into a slaughterhouse for humans. He used animals too, innocent animals. But his case is more than just the story of a killer. It's the story of systemic failure, of marginalized women ignored, and families abandoned. His death in 2024 closed his personal chapter, but it didn't close many. And for Canada, the Pickton case remains a reminder of what happens when society decides some lives matter less than others. Let me know what you think about this case. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit the bell so you would never miss another story. Honestly, it was baffling to me when I did the research. It's heartbreaking for the girls and women who lost their lives and their families. I hope you were informed and entertained by this video, and I will see you in the next one. But until then, stay safe. Bye.